From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from the Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Kayode Okikiolu.
Tonight, the face-off between the federal government and organized labor over fuel subsidy removal takes a new twist as the Nigeria Labour Congress declares two-day warning strike on September the 5th and 6th. Federal government confirms disbursement of 2 billion naira out of the 5 billion naira allocated to each state as fuel subsidy removal palliative. Minister of Finance says partial release of the funds is to curb inflation. We are open to investment, Imo State government declares as it holds its first investment and economic growth stakeholder roundtable.
On business news tonight, federal government moves to attract and deploy funds held by Nigerians abroad and domiciliary accounts to help rejuvenate the economy.
On sports news tonight, Manchester United seek a cure for their travel sickness when they head to London in an early season encounter against Arsenal on Sunday.
From Abuja, the nation's capital, wife of the president, Mrs. Oluremi Tinubu, drums support for the re-election bid of Governor Hope Uzodinma in the November governorship elections in Imo State.
And in international news from London, Ukraine's military intelligence chief has said the drone attack on an airbase in Russia was launched from inside the country.
The countdown begins to Tuesday, September the 5th, a day the Nigeria Labour Congress NLC has marked for the commencement of a two-day warning strike against what it describes as the federal government's failure to address the impact of petrol subsidy removal. The president of the NLC, Mr. Joe Ajaero, made the declaration at a news conference in Abuja, where he told journalists that the decision was taken at the union's executive committee meeting yesterday. The NLC and TUC had staged a protest to the National Assembly in August over the subsidy removal, accusing government of abandoning negotiations and failing to implement some of the resolutions from previous meetings.
The Council scrutinized the federal government's failure to establish essential structures to address the widespread suffering in our nation. Furthermore, it is considered that the government's deliberate neglect and disregard for engaging the national stakeholders through the channel of social dialogue, a commitment it had solemnly declared during the president's inaugural speech on May 29, 2023. Consequently, NEC in session resolved as follows: to embark on a total and indefinite shutdown of the nation within 14 working days or 21 days from today until steps are taken by the government to address the excruciating mass suffering and the impoverishment being experienced around the country. To commence a two-day nationwide warning strike on Tuesday and Wednesday, 5th and 6th of September 2023 to demonstrate our readiness for the indefinite strike later in the month, and to also demand that the state vacates the illegally occupied national headquarters of the National Union of Road Transport Workers.
Now, if the two-day warning strike by the Labour Congress is anything to go by, it'll be another round of face-off and perhaps negotiations between the federal government and members of the organized labor. The members of the NLC and the TUC have been at loggerheads with the federal government since May the 29th, when the president announced the removal of fuel subsidy. Our next report gives an insight into the events that have culminated in this warning strike by the NLC.
It's exactly a month ago when the organized labor staged a nationwide protest and its leadership occupied the National Assembly in Abuja, protesting against the non-implementation of suggestions to cushion the effect of fuel subsidy removal. Prior to the protest, the federal government held a series of meetings with the labor leaders trying to resolve the impasse. The failure of those meetings to resolve the face-off led to the nationwide protest on August 2nd, 2023.
That's a letter.
Leaders of the organized labor occupied the National Assembly with a promise to follow it up with an indefinite strike.
Fight of our greatest Nigerian labor people.
However, the plan was nipped in the bud when representatives of the National Assembly promised the protesters that their issues would be addressed within 1 week.
Fellow comrades, we have motion on ground. The Senate is going to be involved. Please give us 1 week and we will report progress. So I am begging you to call off the strike and give us 1 week and we will report progress. And if you are not satisfied with the progress we are making, then you can take further action. Please.
The demands of the organized labor include the immediate reversal of the recent hike in the price of petrol, the implementation of resolutions with the federal government, immediate fixing of the refineries, payment of 8-month salary arrears of university lecturers, among other demands.
Are people united?
However, the NLC leadership insists the federal government has failed to address the demands.
NEC in session resolved as follows: to embark on a total and indefinite shutdown of the nation within 14 working days or 21 days from today until steps are taken by the government to address the excruciating mass suffering and the impoverishment being experienced around the country. To commence a 2-day nationwide warning strike on Tuesday and Wednesday, 5th and 6th of September 2023, to demonstrate our readiness for the indefinite strike later in the month, and to also demand that the state vacates the illegally occupied national headquarters of the National Union of Road Transport Workers.
As the labor leaders give a fresh warning for an industrial action, citizens hope that the latest face-off will not cause so much disruption to the nation's economy.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Finance and the Coordinating Minister for the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun, has announced that 2 billion naira has so far been released to each state government from the 5 billion naira earmarked for palliatives. Mr. Edun explains that the partial release of the fund is to curb inflation and reaffirmed the president's position that the nation cannot continue to service its debts with over 90% of its revenue. The minister was speaking during a media briefing in Abuja, where the group managing director of the NNPC Limited, Mr. Miller Kyari, also stated that daily consumption of petrol has dropped from 66.7 million litres to 46 million litres.
The Minister of Finance is leading other ministers and government officials to his first ever media briefing.
I'm gathered here because
the media briefing is coming 2 weeks after his assumption of duties, and at a time when the present administration is putting issues of the economy at the forefront, just as the nation's inflation rate and foreign exchange markets continues to rise, and the impact of the removal of fuel subsidy bites even harder.
You cannot remove a subsidy without having some effect on inflation. You cannot remove a subsidy on foreign exchange without the rate going up and without having some hardship as a result of the inflationary effect. And Mr. President, while campaigning, he promised Nigerians that the poor, the vulnerable, would not be left behind. They would not be left to fend for themselves. And that is why he put in place an incentive or a intervention package
As he stated a few days ago, the Minister of Finance is emphatic about the federal government not going the way of borrowing to fund its deficits. The new game, however, is that the federal government will leverage on tax holidays as well as other incentives to show up its foreign direct investments and improve its 20 trillion naira tax deficits.
In order to gain and build public trust, there will be emphasis on efficiency in government expenditure and similarly effective debt management so that borrowing has linked to it the return on investment. You borrow and you will see the cash flow that will repay that borrowing.
As part of the mandate given to us by Mr. President is to look at the incentive regime in Nigeria so we can, based on data and evidence, design what is appropriate for us as a country in terms of what we want to drive. So those incentives will be targeted, they will be data-driven, evidence-based, and in most cases we have sunset clauses so they don't last forever and we only find out after losing so much money.
Again, the impact of the removal of fuel subsidy comes up. The Group Managing Director of the NNPC highlights this impact as well as the positives that has arisen as a result.
In today's market condition, pricing in the market and also the FX regime, we would have been dealing with close to 1 trillion naira of subsidy every month at this point in time. We simply don't have those resources anymore. You are not just saving money, you are also facing realities around what you can afford.
The federal government has identified revenues and foreign direct investments as key policies that would address the present economic shocks being experienced.
To legal matters now, as the nation anticipates the final judgment of the Presidential Election Petition Court, the chairman of the body of benches, retired Justice Mary Peter Odili, is appealing to Nigerians to refrain from actions that could jeopardize Nigeria's unity. Speaking at a colloquium organized by Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Joe Kyari Gadzama in Abuja, she emphasized that while it is natural for politicians who lose elections to feel aggrieved, frustrations should be expressed with a sense of responsibility.
On the heels of the 63rd Annual Conference of the Nigeria Bar Association, senior lawyers and eminent Nigerians from across the country converged for this colloquium with the theme, Nigeria of Our Dreams. The chairman of the occasion and retired Justice of the Supreme Court begins the discourse with a warning to those who might be considering avenues to blackmail the judiciary.
In ventilating our points of view and facts at the electoral tribunals or other courts, a sense of responsibility from all parties is demanded.
Without mincing words, the guest speaker believes a new Nigeria is possible with a change of name.
Why can't we think of giving Nigeria a name that is still indigenous to us? Ghana change, Burkina Faso, all of them. We have given all the examples. The French, in their territory, the nation next to us, they named that nation Niger. I want to say Nigeria. So the French, in citizen of Niger, is Nigerian. So the citizen of Nigeria, from the British perspective, is a Nigerian. What's the difference?
According to Mr. Olanipekun, there cannot be a new Nigeria without true federalism.
There is master servant in what we practice today. We say we have a constitution that we call Federal Republic of Nigeria, Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It's more of Constitution of the Federal Unitary Republic of Nigeria.
The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice believes the process of rebuilding Nigeria requires the collective effort of all.
I wish to assert that for us to fulfill the dream of our founding fathers, we need to truly heed the national call embedded in our national anthem, which urges us as compatriots to arise and faithfully love Nigeria.
The organizer of the colloquium shares his thoughts on the Nigeria of his dreams.
Corruption has been identified, nepotism has been identified, electoral rigging, and so on and so forth. So we need good governance, we need transparency in this country at all levels.
As the APC-led federal government marks its first 100 days in office in a matter of days, participants at this colloquium remain optimistic that a new Nigeria is a realizable dream.
In part two, after the break, President Tinubu to attend the G20 summit holding in New Delhi, India from September the 9th to the 10th, a trip expected to mobilize private capital to the country. Well, that's in a moment. Just stay with us.
This is Premium Pension. How can we help? Our work behind the scenes, enabling our members grow wealth to secure a premium tomorrow. We see your hard work and we make your money work hard for you. We are growing with you in commitment and service. Leveraging technology to meet your demands. Secure your future and pave way for the next generation. Embracing diversity with firm roots across the 36 states of Nigeria and the FCT. Premium Pension. Active today, premium tomorrow.
The Duchess International Hospital opened its doors in October 2021. The mission of the hospital is to reverse medical tourism. We take particular care here at the Duchess to bring together a combination of the brightest and the best locally, as well as Nigerians in the diaspora who are interested in returning to do very good work for the benefit of our patients here in this country.
The good thing is that we have all international expertise here, all international facilities here, international people working here. Everything is coming together in a space which was considered not great in terms of the availability of healthcare.
Access Bank, of course, has been able to provide us with a robust range of products and services that has enabled us to deliver that standard and quality of healthcare that is integral to our mission as an organization.
My most trusted toothpaste for kids.
So, most kids use this toothpaste, right?
Right.
Then, why do 7 out of 10 kids have cavities, sir? Because whatever this toothpaste has for cavity protection, isn't enough. Dabba Herbal contains clove. My mother says it contains eugenol, which is 99.9% effective in cavity protection. Look, no cavity. Where there's clove, there's no cavity.
In order to harmonize university education with industry, Babalola University at Duchess, ranked by Times Higher Education Impact Rankings as #1 university in Nigeria for 2 consecutive years, has embarked on an industrial research park for the construction of 124 industries, producing, among others, gari, fufu, flour, starch, pounded yam, ogi, dry pepper, rice, moringa products, abwa ferrocidin, tablet and syrup, carbonated drinks. Factories near completion. Cashew, recycling, first-to-fact center. Additional facilities include power plant, water dam, and helipad. Distributors should tender for products of their choice. Manufacturers shall state product of interest. Expression of interest shall be submitted to the email industrialpark@abwa.edu.ng. Telephone 080-236-48151.
Abwa, a vision in action.
You're welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live from Channels Television. Here's a reminder of our top stories. The face-off between the federal government and organized labor over fuel subsidy removal takes a new twist as the Nigeria Labour Congress declares two-day warning strike on September the 5th and 6th. Federal government confirms disbursement of 2 billion naira out of 5 billion naira allocated to each state as fuel subsidy removal palliative. Minister of Finance says partial release of the funds is to curb inflation. We are open to investment, Enugu State government declares as it holds its first investment and economic growth stakeholder roundtable. And Ukraine's military intelligence chief says the drone attack on an air base in the Russian city of Pskov on Tuesday was launched from inside Russia. Well, President Bola Tinubu will be attending the upcoming G20 summit in New Delhi, India from September the 9th to the 10th, a trip expected to attract foreign direct investment into the country. According to the spokesman to the president, Mr. Jiringilali, the president will also be hosting a roundtable made up of more than 20 chief executives of major industries across multiple sectors of the Indian economy.
The focus of the summit will be heavily predicated on the urgent need to attract foreign direct investment in country and to ensure that we are able to mobilize private capital from around the world toward the development of Nigeria's public infrastructure. In addition to that, we are focused on engagements that will be dealing with critical sectors of the national economy. His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will be hosting a CEO roundtable, which will be made up of more than 20 chief executive officers of major industries across multiple sectors of the Indian economy to ensure that we leverage on their interest in investing in the country in such a way that suits the industrialization initiative of the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President. Of course, when we arrive in India next week, there will be live updates from India, which I will be providing day after day, to ensure that Nigerians have full access into what our president is doing on their behalf.
And still talking economic development, but this time at the subnational level, the Enugu State government has held its first investment and economic growth stakeholder roundtable. Well, the event is in preparation for the first fully transactional Enugu State Diaspora and Investment Summit, which is billed to take place in April 2024. According to Governor Peter Mbah, Enugu is open to investment and the state will ensure security of every investment in the state.
Governor of Enugu State.
It's the first of its kind in Enugu as the state is organizing the Investment and Economic Growth Stakeholders Roundtable meeting.
We will any key bottlenecks.
Already seated is the Governor, Peter Mbah, members of the Executive Council, country representatives, captains of industry, potential investors, and other stakeholders in the business world.
Thank you.
The governor delivers his keynote address, highlighting the integrated sector-based productivity growth agenda and public-private partnership.
The theme of this roundtable, leveraging public-private partnerships, was purposely chosen to align with our administration's vision of accelerating sustainable economic transformation with the private sector as driver. Therefore, this roundtable marks a beginning for long-term partnerships and cooperation for shared prosperity.
Some of the development partners share their thoughts on how the big dream can be realized, highlighting the key drivers of long-term competitiveness and economic growth.
We're aware of this administration's keen interest to drive the infrastructure development of the region, specifically the monorail programme with other southeastern states, and its ambitions in the area of digital technology with the intended Tier 4 data centre project tailored specifically to Enugu State. We look forward to hearing more about this project.
I'd like to congratulate His Excellency for his commitment to providing that leadership, that policy certainty, clarity, support, not to get in the way of private businesses or not to try to do everything, but in fact to try and facilitate private investment.
The event goes into a private interview session with the governor explaining his overall goal and objectives for the roundtable, reassuring the investors of the uncompromised safety of their investment and well-being.
What we have just started to do is to, if you will, whet the appetite of the investing public, the investing community, that Enugu is indeed the next destination of investment. And so what we have done is to profile and to also prepare concept notes of the wide array of investment opportunities that Enugu has.
As they conclude the roundtable, residents will want to see the promise and commitment translate to tangible investments for the overall economic growth and development of the state.
Thank you so much for coming. We are grateful to you.
For more of the news at 10, let's head over to our Abuja studio where Victor Matthias is sitting by. Hello, Victor.
Hello, Kairi, TGIF. Now, let's turn our attention to Imo State, where the wife of the president, Mrs. Oluremi Tinubu, today called on all women in Imo State to support the re-election bid of Governor Hope Uzodinma in the November 11th governorship election in the state. Mrs. Tinubu made the call during the grand finale of the 2023 Women August meeting held in the Imo State capital, Owerri. According to her, the Governor Uzodinma administration has done a lot for the women folk in the state, especially for picking a woman as his running mate in the upcoming governorship election.
It's the grand finale of the 2023 Imo Women August meeting, and Imo women across the 27 local government areas are gathered in their beautiful and colorful attires at the Ndubisi Kanu Square in Owerri, the Imo State capital. The arrival of the special guest of honor and wife of the president, Oluremi Tinubu, accompanied by the Imo State Governor, Hope Uzodinma, and wife Chioma, signals the commencement of this all-important event. The event kickstarts with a march past by women from the 27 local government areas and other women associations across the state. Delivering her speech, the host and wife of Imo State Governor Chioma Uzodinma calls on women to continue to preach peace and unity among the people, emphasizing that the Uzodinma-led administration will continue to prioritize the welfare and well-being of women.
As partners of our menfolk, we must continue to stand by our husbands, but we must realize that the support we give to each other is even more important. As women, we must love ourselves. We must close ranks to fight the cause of women, because we can make all the difference we desire if we are united. Being a strong believer in gender equality, His Excellency Senator Hope Uzodinma has given Imo women great opportunities to serve in his 3R administration.
Governor Uzodinma corroborates the stance of his wife on women empowerment and development.
We are here to give our women support and solidarity. Today is their day. Let us rejoice and celebrate in it. I have no other speech to make after my wife has taken time and turn to comprehensively analyze and dissect the content of her speech to this quality audience.
The guest of honor and wife of the president, Oluremi Tinubu, reiterates the commitment of the Bola Tinubu-led administration in making Nigeria a more prosperous nation, which all Nigerians will be proud of. She also urges all Imo women to support the re-election bid of Governor Hope Uzodinma.
We are here today to reassure you of the federal government's commitment to making Nigeria a more prosperous nation, where all of us and generations yet unborn will be proud to belong. I call on all of you great women of Imo State to come out en masse and vote overwhelmingly for the governor, Hope Uzodinma.
The August meeting is an annual event which gives opportunities for women across the state and within to meet with their local counterparts, families and friends to discuss matters about community and women development, as well as other matters of socio-economic and cultural importance.
Still talking more politics, the former governor of Ekiti State, Mr. Ayodele Fayose, has cautioned the People's Democratic Party against suspending the current minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mr. Nyesom Wike, from the party. He stated this on Channel's TV program Hard Copy, during which he also called for an overhaul of the party.
Some people say suspend Wike, sack Wike. I think they do that at their own peril. You see, the first thing in your family, even when you have extreme situation in differences, is not to say, drive your wife or drive your husband. Wike is a force in the PDP and beyond the PDP that you can't ignore. So you ignore Wike, you sack Wike, you fight Wike at your own peril. He's a man of capacity. So, but let me leave Wike in the instance. For me, the PDP needs to overhaul itself. And let me commend the acting national chairman. For my findings, all efforts are there to push him to touch people like Wike, to touch people like me. He has exercised restraint. Don't forget the tenure of the current working committee ordinarily is 4 years. They've spent almost 2 years. So what is the driving force? What is left in the PDP? My findings confirm that the party can't pay salaries now, because it is the like of Wike and others that were supporting the party to take up certain responsibilities.
Still ahead on the news at 10, the federal government moves to attract and deploy funds held by Nigerians abroad and in domiciliary accounts to help rejuvenate the economy. That's on Business News. Do join us again.
Brother Jumbo, why you dey fumble? This is Takaro, she don't change her bottle. You no need to dey suffer to send money, oh. Careful, make you dial the number 894. Make you know the wait 894. No need to dey start for line 894. It is safe and secure. 894 for me, 894 for you, 894 for there's a number that could change your whole world. 894. It no matter if you don't get data. 894. Just pick your phone and dial the number 894 for me, 894 for you, 894 for Niger.
Dial *894# to get started. Powered by First Bank.
Our new toothpaste, Colgate Maximum Cavity Protection.
Why are we changing our toothpaste?
Because with Colgate Maximum Cavity Protection, I can be sure your teeth are cavity-free.
When you brush daily with Colgate Maximum Cavity Protection, its expert formula locks natural calcium in our teeth and helps protect them from cavity. Colgate is the world's most chosen toothpaste.
Colgate locks calcium in.
Keeps cavities out!
The new Colgate Mini Bag is now available at just 300 Naira.
Repair and recover with Astamin, a blend of amino acids and multivitamins.
Are you passionate about changing your country for the better? Do you think you can make this change with a profitable business? Here's your chance to win a grant of 30 million Naira, mentorship from an industry expert, and access to an exclusive network of business leaders. We are looking for ambitious, dedicated social entrepreneurs to take part in our exciting new business competition show, Fund It Forward. To apply, go to www.funditforward.tv. Fund It Forward, a Channels original series.
Many thanks for staying with us. Now, 1 billion people around the world have vision impairment that could have been prevented or is yet to be addressed. In Nigeria, almost 25 million have some form of vision loss, and this is affecting not just lives, but livelihoods. At its 48th annual general meeting, the Ophthalmological Society of Nigeria set out to find ways to improve the outlook of vision in the country. Our correspondent, Mary Alale Yusuf, reports.
Many are familiar with images of a young child leading a vision-impaired older relative about the streets. One who has lived a not-so-productive life, and another whose chances for an education and a thriving career are slipping. Experts say about 90% of visual-impaired people can be helped with a cataract surgery or a pair of eyeglasses. Access to such help is what the Ophthalmological Society of Nigeria is determined to create at its 48th annual general meeting.
If a child can see, when they finish school, that's their economic output. If they're vision impaired, they start employment later and their economic output is lower, as you might expect. If you don't see as well, your chance to be productive goes down. Vision is the intervention to many critical outcomes, like learning. So we've seen that you're 2 to 5 times less likely to be in education if you do not have good vision. Tea pickers, I can see colleagues from Vision Spring here were involved in a study which showed if you gave a pair of $1 reading glasses to tea pickers, you could increase their productivity by 22 to 32%.
All eye conditions can be managed at the primary healthcare level. I did not say treated, I said managed. What does a primary healthcare worker do? He detects, or he or she detects, counsels, or refers.
The wife of the Lagos State Governor, Dr. Duchess stresses the importance of solving eye problems early.
So it's very important that we catch them early, and it's very important for Lagos State to continue to support the school health program initiative.
An argument the president of the society buttresses.
The only way you can diagnose is if you go to have an eye test. Most people don't even have the culture of going for an eye test. Most people don't even know that they have glaucoma until they've lost the sight of one eye completely, and they start having accidents, maybe bumping into people.
One of the society's challenges is increasing organ donation awareness to tackle blindness due to corneal scarring.
For the cornea, which is that clear part in the front of our eyes, after death, by 24 hours, it is all gone. So why can't we, when we're gone, and we know we can still do good, that is give life to somebody who is still alive, why can't we think about that so that even at death, we are still given life, we're still given sight to somebody.
The chairperson of the Ophthalmological Society in Lagos State is looking forward to implementing some of the suggestions.
We've learned a lot of strategies and how to maybe advocacy and how to introduce policies to our people that will encourage corneal donations.
With that and a robust school eye screening program, the OSN believes less people will slip through the cracks of eye care. Mary Alale Yusuf, Channels Television News.
And that's it on the news at 10 from the nation's capital. Let's now head back to Lagos, where the news at 10 continues with Kaede.
Many thanks, Victor. To company news now, Aradel Holdings PLC, an indigenous oil and gas exploration and production company, says its modular refineries will begin the refining of premium motor spirit, also known as petrol, in 2024. The managing director and chief executive officer of the company, Mr. Adebute Falade, stated this at an event marking the company's rebranding from its former name, Niger Delta Exploration and Production PLC, to Aradel Holdings PLC in Port Harcourt, the River State capital.
The rebranded Aradel Holdings PLC is an oil and gas exploration and production company which started operations in Nigeria over 30 years ago as Midas Drillings Fund and in 1996 became Niger Delta Exploration and Production PLC. The official unveiling was first held in Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, on the 1st of August this year. And in a bid to bring the message closer to host communities, the company is organizing a regional ceremony in Port Harcourt, the River State capital. The Chief Technical Officer, Mr. Ebenezer Age, explains the full meaning of the acronym Aradel.
The name is an acronym that derives from what is our core value system. And the A in Aradel, the first A, stands for accountability. We're accountable to our regulators. We're accountable to all stakeholders. The R in Aradel speaks of our resilience over the years. In Aradel is adaptability. The D is diversity. The E stands for excellence. And L stands for leadership.
The Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Adegbite Falade, highlights some of the company's achievements.
About 11 years ago, as a company, we said it is possible for us, instead of buying diesel anywhere, why can't we develop our own diesel? So on that note, we invested into the first modular refinery in the history of this country.
Next is goodwill message from traditional rulers of host communities and state government functionaries.
We have records of performances of various companies and their host communities. I want to state clearly here that Aradel Holding has performed very high.
As we can see today, is growing to a stage where they will be referred to as IOC in one of these days.
The CEO reiterates the company's proven track record in the oil and gas sector.
We've implemented 3-train modular refinery today. The first train came on stream sometimes in 2010-2011, supplying only AGO, and it has supplied AGO from that time till now. The second train came on stream in 2020. We added a 5,000 barrels train to that produced not just AGO, that produced DPK, which is kerosene, marine diesel oil, heavy fuel oil, and naphtha. And then in 2021, we added yet another 5,000 train to it.
The event is rounded off with a cultural display by a cultural dance troupe.
ARM Labs, formerly known as Labs by ARM, has concluded a 6-week innovation program with its 5th cohort of Nigerian startups. This year's program was expanded to accommodate startups working in the fintech, pentech, data intelligence and digital trade space. Over 500 applications were received, but only 5 startup founders were selected to receive financial investment and mentorship, among other benefits.
After an intensive 6-week pre-accelerator program, selected startups of the 5th cohort of the ARM Labs Innovation Program are ready to present their business models to potential investors. This year's innovation program, designed by Asset and Resource Management Holding Company in collaboration with TVC Labs, is to support ARM's mission to support and invest in compelling Nigerian startups in the incubation stage.
We believe the more that it was a good decision to venture into this area. Today we have about 3 programs and counting in the innovation space.
The idea, all right, is not just another accelerator for just another set of startups. Okay? The idea is more fundamental.
After participating in the program, the startups will not only receive up to $50,000 in funding, they will also receive guidance from mentors and have access to an investor network.
What we're seeking to achieve is to find interesting technology startups
that are innovating in ways that we admire, that we feel can enable us unlock new opportunities for both us and the startups.
These 5 carefully chosen startup founders, after a robust incubator journey, now present their pitch deck.
When we came into this program, I would dare say that we were wrong. You know, you thought you had it all figured out, your pitch deck, everything was great. And then tore it all apart and you started afresh.
When you come into this program as a startup and you're exiting this program, you find yourself better structured, right? And given the theme of this cohort, which is investment readiness, I can guarantee you that all 5 startups in the cohort are more than investor ready at this point.
You have to be extremely, extremely disciplined in deciding that, no, this is not what I'm looking for. And it can be tough. But what I would say is, even looking at the 5 that we chose 6 weeks ago and the 5 that pitched today, there's been a significant difference.
The ARM Labs Innovation Program is an intensive support program for selected Nigerian startups to help improve their product, expand their market, and strengthen their team's skill set to enhance their chances of success.
Well, we have more business stories for you on the news at 10 with Anne Uwaudu.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Kayode. Hello and welcome to Business News. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edu, says the current administration is making moves to attract funds held in domiciliary accounts and funds held by Nigerians abroad into massive investments across various sectors of the economy. At a press briefing in Abuja, the minister explains that large sums held by Nigerians in domiciliary accounts, as well as diaspora funds, could be deployed to rejuvenate the economy. He revealed that there is substantial amount of cash, especially foreign exchange, outside the system, which, if brought into the system, would increase supply of dollars and support accreditation for forex reserves. The Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, says the federal government is ready to optimize the generating capacity of the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria. Speaking at the facility visit of the Lagos Airport, Mr. Keyamo says the 60% of funds revenue comes from Lagos, and as such, the new terminal should be used optimally. On concessioning of the airports and Nigeria Air Project, the minister says all exercises will be put on hold until he briefs President Tinubu on his findings. And to some company news now. Leading financial services institution Stanbic IBTC has released its audited report for the first 6 months of this year. Highlights of its largest performance for the period ended 30th of June 2023 shows the financial services giant's total assets increased by 47% to 4.45 trillion naira, up from 3.03 trillion naira recorded in December 2022. Also, the customer deposits increased by 32% to 1.64 trillion naira. Net consumer loans and advances climbed by 37% to 1.66 trillion naira, while the bank's equity rose by 11% to over 451 million naira within the period under review. Still, with the financial performance, the profit after tax rose significantly by 121% to 67.9 billion naira, and that's a sharp contrast by the 30.6 billion naira reported in the same period last year. The total income surged by 51% to 171.3 billion naira, while its earnings per share increased by 100% to 512 kobo. Meanwhile, the bank, in a statement sent to the Nigerian Stock Exchange, says an interim dividend of 1 naira 50 kobo per ordinary share of 50 kobo each will be paid to shareholders whose names appear in the register of members on Tuesday, September the 12th. Let's head to the stock market now. It began the Ember month with a new multi-year record on stronger investor appetite for equities. Let's hear the details from Inijon Mekwa.
Well, it's certainly an exciting Friday, and because we're starting the month on a new high at the NGX, and it certainly will be a September to remember, because it's the month that the oil share index at the NGX hit 67,000, closed at 67,527.19 after going up almost 1.5%, and just one more move will have 37 trillion naira for the market cap. And it's all because of bargain hunting on some major stock. Dangote Cement is leading that. Dangote Cement moved about 1.54 billion naira at the close of trade today. Zenith Bank was also up 4.56% and moved about 660. Access School, more than 3%, 3.1% here at 588 million. So it's a very positive market bread with 41 stocks gain and only 12 decline. So it's a great way to start the month. And guess who's even happy about this? It's the bull. So a September to remember, a great way to start the month. And we hope it will be the sentiment for the month. That's the stock market report. Back to you, Anne.
Thank you, Rini. Well, we hope that happens. Well, let's see how other major markets around the world closed at the close of trade today. Thank you for watching Business News Tonight. I'm Anne Nwawado. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Kayode. Have a wonderful weekend.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Well, thank you, Anne. The U.S. government says forces in Ukraine have made notable progress in their push against Russian positions in the south. White House Secretary, that's a security spokesperson, John Kirby, said those gains were made in the past 72 hours south of Zaporizhia. Here's Simon Pusey with more international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Ukraine's military intelligence chief has said the drone attack on an airbase in the Russian city of Peskov was launched from inside Russia. 2 cargo planes were destroyed and 2 were damaged. Russia says 4 were damaged. Satellite images released by Planet Labs showed a view of Kresty airbase before and after the wave of Ukrainian drone attacks. South African firefighters have gone back inside the Johannesburg building destroyed by fire on Thursday to see if they can find any more bodies. The blaze in the overcrowded and condemned 5-story building claimed 74 lives, including 12 children. The fire service says it wants to be sure that no one has been left behind. The cause of the fire remains unknown, but forensic investigators are also at the site picking through the charred remains of the burnt-out building.
The whole block has been cordoned off to traffic because of this terrible scene. We are urging members of the public and especially motorists to be aware of the situation that is happening. The city will look into this matter and to ensure that those who are injured are dealt with in the proper manner and the proper care, and those who have been displaced because of this fire are also helped in the proper manner as well.
That building, perhaps more than most, all of Johannesburg still is shaped by the apartheid architecture, an architecture of fundamental economic, social, racial segregation. And that building is so symbolic in that sense as some building where they issued passes to non-white populations to come and work in the city. People who were necessary to the economy, but who the sort of powers that be didn't really want living amongst them.
Thailand's king has reduced the 8-year prison sentence of the former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra to just a year. Mr. Thaksin, who returned home last month after 15 years of self-imposed exile, was immediately sent to jail. He was then moved to the luxury wing of a state hospital after complaining of heart problems. Mr. Thaksin has always said the outstanding sentences over charges of corruption and abuse were politically motivated. A judge has ruled that Donald Trump's trial in Georgia over charges of election fraud will be live-streamed and televised. All the hearings will be available live on Fulton County Court's YouTube channel, the judge said. A date for the trial has not yet been set, but it could be next year when Mr. Trump is running for re-election. Mr. Trump and 18 people are charged with a conspiracy to overturn the state's 2020 presidential election results. Hundreds of flights have been cancelled in Hong Kong and the neighbouring Chinese province of Guangdong ahead of the arrival of Typhoon Saola. Schools, businesses and financial markets have closed as the area prepares for the storm, which has winds of up to 125 miles per hour. 3 tropical cyclones have formed in the northwest Pacific Ocean and South China Sea. Saola, which could make landfall on Friday night or Saturday morning, may be among the 5 strongest typhoons to hit Guangdong since 1949. Storm surges may raise sea levels by up to 10 feet as the typhoon makes landfall, with the potential for serious flooding. A popular female bear has been shot dead on the outskirts of a town in central Italy, and a man has claimed he opened fire out of fear. The bear, named Amarina, was filmed earlier this week roaming around the town of San Sebastiano dei Marsi with her 2 cubs. There was widespread shock in Abruzzo that Amarina had been killed. The bear was well known in the area and named after a variety of black cherry that she was particularly fond of. And police in Nebraska have made an unusual traffic stop, a vehicle with a giant bull riding in the front passenger seat. Local police in the town of Norfolk were tipped off about a man driving a cow in the passenger seat. Police officers told local news media they initially expected to see a small calf inside the vehicle. Instead, they found a Watusi bull, a breed known for its giant spiralling horns. Local media reports said the driver's name was Lee Mayer, with the bull named Howdy Doody. The police officer wrote Mayer a warning and asked him to leave the city and take the bull back home. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon. And we begin in your city, where Arsenal boss Mikel Arteta has admitted that games against Manchester United are quite a delight to spectators. Arsenal hosts Manchester United on Sunday at the Emirates, with the Gunners sitting 1 point ahead of them in the table. And Arteta said it would be great for the team to get a boost of confidence before international break. Meanwhile, his colleague Erik ten Hag has confirmed that Rasmus Højlund has his feet and could make his debut in their Premier League game against Arsenal. Højlund joined Manchester United from Atalanta for a fee of $91 million before the season began, but is yet to feature for the club owing to a back injury. Another signing, Sergio Ruggiero, could also make his first appearance at the Emirates.
It's one of the biggest games in the Premier League, and how we're really looking forward, of course, that fight. And really always interesting games, intense games. I think it's very 2 teams who really play offensive football. The right intentions, I would say. The audience is always the big winner of that game. So, yeah, really looking forward to have that game.
And staying in Europe, Spain's sports court has agreed to investigate Luis Rubiales for forcibly kissing Women's World Cup winner Jenny Hermoso, paving the way for fresh sanctions against the embattled football boss. The government lodged a complaint against Rubiales through the state-run National Sports Council exactly a week ago, accusing him of what they consider very serious offences. And at that accusation being accepted, it would have allowed the Sports Council to suspend Rubiales for a duration of the case. In the meantime, Luis Rubiales appears to be grandstanding and has vowed that he will continue to defend himself against what he calls to prove the truth after an investigation was opened over his conduct towards Hermoso in Australia. Rubiales maintained that the kiss was a mutual and consensual act with overflowing jubilation on both sides, and he believes that justice will prevail. And that's it on Sports News. Kayode is back to you.
Well, thank you, Jeffrey. And the main news again. The Nigeria Labour Congress today declared a two-day warning strike to take place on September the 5th and 6th, following the inability of the federal government and organized labor to resolve their disagreement over the implementation of fuel subsidy removal palliative. And that's the news at 10 for tonight, everyone. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Okikulu. Good night.